Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Hopefully, you can hear me okay. I'm gonna make sure because sometimes my microphone wants to be weird. It looks like it's all working. Hello, welcome back. Let me know in the chat if you're here. Say hey. If you're coming in on the replay, let me know that you stopped through. That will be wonderful. Ooh, I did not bring my water in here with me, so we're just going to work it out. I will say that Mercury is still in retrograde, so, whatever happens, happens. If you were here for Friend Friday, hey, CD. If you were here for Friend Friday, you know what I mean when I talk about Mercury in retrograde being real shady to me all the time. So today we are going to talk about the element of air. So I just recently got the blog out today. Sorry, I'm a little behind schedule. Again, thank you, Mercury in retrograde. But it's out there. Check it out. And if you're on the email list, you would have also gotten your emails. Today, if you're not on the list, why not? You should come on over to the list. If you go on my website, melmorriscoaching.com, there is a great free gift there. There is a really nice guided meditation and a PDF that you can download and listen to anytime. It walks you through like a real simple process, of going through all of the elements. So that's free, and that will also put you on the email list. So I don't send a ton of emails out, so you don't have to worry about getting bombarded there. But yeah, this week is all about air, and I think it's been really helpful for me to like stop and think about the element of air. And one of the things that I think that happens when we are making changes in our lives. So for me, as we talk about these 5 elements of manifesting and going through each of these elements in kind of, in a specific order, is oftentimes we, and I mentioned this in the blog, but a lot of times we get to earth phase, right? So we go through water, we cleanse things out, which feels great. We feel lighter. We get to earth and we ground ourselves. And for some of us, maybe that hasn't happened in a really long time, right? And so it's easy to get settled in that comfort of being grounded, of really getting to know yourself and feeling into yourself. That can be really such a beautiful feeling that people kind of get stuck there sometimes, and they let go of what needs to come next, right? So yeah, you've got to stop and ground yourself, but you have to make sure that you keep moving, right? None of us are here just to be comfortable forever, right? You've got to keep challenging yourself and pushing yourself and let your gifts out, the gifts that you were born with and things that you were supposed to share. And that's where we come into the element of air. So air's energy is about your thoughts, right? So we see this in the tarot, in the suit of swords, and I'm going to show you actually the 2 cards that I pulled today for myself. I won't say coincidentally because it's not a coincidence, but it's in the suit of swords, which for me in tarot, the suit of swords can seem really dark, right? Because it's all about our thoughts, not whether our thoughts are real, life situations, if they're fact or fiction. They are just our thoughts. And a lot of times we find ourselves dealing with, processing these thoughts that are not necessarily even ours, right? They're things that we learn from other people. They may be things that our parents or family members or a shitty ex kind of put into our minds that we're allowing to still stay there. And so they may not even be our thoughts. And that's kind of the darker negative side of air energy. And again, why I think, if you ever have a tarot reading done, I try to let people know that that Suit of Swords is that literally that double-edged sword, right? That's the darkness. The beautiful part around air is that it is our creative selves, right? So not the energy that we find like in our sacral chakra, right? It's not that energy. It's not that creative, emotional energy. It's our thoughts. It's our ability to dream, to think about and vision things that aren't things that we already know, right? So when we talked about Earth, I talked about the physical plane and things that are tangible, that you can physically touch, where air is, beyond that. So, we dealt with our emotions, we dealt with our physical bodies, but now this is our mind, and getting our mind to a point where we allow it to dream and where we allow it to plan for what's next. So, yeah. CD's putting all the words over there for you in case you miss anything. So yeah, it is about communications. That's why I this is the other necklace that I wear a lot during Mercury in retrograde, because this necklace, well, I have a couple, but this one definitely helps me with this moonstone in here especially, helps me with communication. It helps me to think through what I want to communicate, right? So I have a beautiful lapis necklace that I'm sure I've worn before that is more specific to communication and my throat chakra, but this helps me to process my thoughts a little bit more clearly, especially times like this when they're a little jumbled. So again, the very positive energy of air is that allowing us to dream, to think about and imagine things that don't even exist for us, right? So with a lot of meditations, I love meditation. I love guided meditations. It took me a long time to really appreciate them because it was hard for me to kind of slow my mind down. And so when I learned about guided meditation, it was a lifesaver for me, because I could just pay attention to what someone else was saying and follow along. I didn't have to clear my mind, if you will. But sometimes let's say in a vision board, okay? So in a vision board, you may put up things that, that you've seen, right? I want to aspire to get this thing and be this kind of person, have this kind of home or vehicle, or, tangible things that we aspire to. But those are all things that we've seen, that we know, that we can recreate in our minds because we've seen it before. When I get to talking about spirit next week, actually, and your intuition, I'm going to flip that just a little bit and talk more about the idea of visioning. So visioning for me is about the ability to think about and to see things that are unfamiliar, right? They're things beyond what you already know about. They're even bigger than just the aspirational goals that you have based on what you've already seen before. So we'll talk about that a little bit more next week. But I mentioned that it can be tricky to move out of Earth's energy because of that comfort, but it can be really tricky to move out of air's energy as well, because again, here you get the opportunity to not only dream about who you can be, what else there is, what else is out there, but you also get to plan. So there is a very practical side to air energy in that planning. And when you're planning, I'm sorry, I have this new mouse that just kind of does what it wants to do. When you're planning, many of us, especially, if you're here and you've started a business or started a new project or are creating something, it's easy to get stuck in planning, right? And you're getting ready to get ready, right? So that can happen in air's energy because it is about dreaming and planning and what things can look like and what, how these things can happen. And that's great. Again, that's part of the process that you have to allow yourself to go through, right? Before I'm sorry, next week is not spirit. Next week we'll be talking about fire. Before we get to the energy of fire, where we're actually moving, we're actually doing things. And again, a lot of us kind of skip over the thinking and planning, and we're just doing. But what are we doing? We didn't plan it out. We didn't dream about who we really wanted to be and what we wanted it to look like. So the thinking portion, the planning portion, the dreaming portion, that's all beautiful air energy, right? And so if you can imagine yourself, sitting somewhere and there's a breeze coming through, and you can just kind of close your eyes and feel just the lightness, the airiness, just allowing your thoughts to kind of come in and flow through without getting stuck on anything. All of that beautiful energy is going to help you to, again, just give yourself a break and dream a little bit, but then also start to plan around things that are really important to you, right? Not planning for the sake of planning, but, really sitting down, again, thinking about what you came up with first, the things that you want to change. What does that look like? What are the first steps that we can start to take to move forward? All of that planning happens in the element of air. So I said I wanted to show you. So this morning I try to do my kind of morning meditation. I pull some cards. So before I even pulled this card, I had a vision of this card from another deck, from the original Tarot Rider-Waite deck, the Queen of Swords, right? And so I love this deck. This is a beautiful deck. But the Queen of Swords, so again, swords is the suit of air. The Queen of Swords is, we've talked about, leaders, royalty, if you will, how kings rule from a projective energy, from a forceful pushing out energy, where queens are more receptive. They're more about communications. They're more about getting people together. But this card in particular, the imagery here on this particular card is a little bit different in that my focus was really drawn to the doves that are in the card, and this idea of freedom, of taking flight, of moving forward. And it really just struck me that, again, it's really important to remember, even though I have a lot of my allergies are acting up, everyone in the house, it's really important to remember not just the planning and sitting in the planning. For me, there's a lot of, I've found myself a little bit behind with some of the content and things I want to push out. But I have to remember that at the end of the day, I do have a plan. I do have ideas about, what I want to do, where I want to go, where I want this business to go, what I want to offer to all of you. And that needs to be my focus. So, if that makes sense for you, I'd love you to chime in. If you're just getting here, go ahead and say hi. If you've got any questions, you can pop that in here too. I will say that if you have any questions, I noticed from a previous live, if you have questions, you're good. Based on the program that I'm using, you need to actually come to the direct page. So if you can come to my business Facebook page, maybe Janelle, if you're here, you can pop in the direct link in case you're watching from a shared video and you have any questions. I want to make sure that I can see them. If I don't see them live, I certainly will go through and check in anywhere that I'm tagged and answer questions later as well. But yes, come on over to, I think it's, I don't know, what's my regular Facebook page? Facebook.com/Mel Morris Coaching, maybe? I'm going to go with that. I see your question. What deck is that? So this deck is the, I'm just looking, I just put a lot of my boxes down here. That is the Gilded Tarot Royale. It's the newest. There was an older version. This is the most updated version of this deck. And it's such a beautiful deck. And I'm always looking for diverse decks. This is more diverse than a lot of decks. you know, they're getting better. I'll just leave it at that. So that was my the card that I pulled initially, and then I also pulled an oracle card, which, you know, I've mentioned before. Oracle cards are see if I can get it in focus here for you. I don't know why doesn't want to focus for me. I could change my view, but there we go. So this is a deck from, thank you, Janelle. Yeah, that's the regular page. So if you are not watching from this page that's over here in the link, it's facebook.com/Mel Morris Coaching, and you have a question, jump on over there, pop your question in. So I pulled this card. To be fair, this is from the Wisdom of the Oracle Tarot deck, which is from Colette Baron-Reid, who I like a lot. She has several Oracle decks. She's also getting better about having more diverse representation. A lot of the decks do not, in fairness, but I do think she's kind of working on it. So I just wanted to read you, like, the first essential meaning on this was balance, justice, and need to consider options, mutual benefit, and the law of cause and effect. And what I thought was really interesting about this one, and again, if I can try to get it into focus for you, I think the light is making it weird. Yeah. You can see that she's kind of holding these scales, right? And she is balancing like a fortune cookie and what looks like an egg. So given that it's still Libra season, which, you know, if you, and maybe CD would be happy to chime in here too, but in astrology, you know, you see the image of the scales that represent Libra and the idea of fairness. And Libra is an air sign, which is why if you chime in or you come in Friday, for my friend Friday, I will have what I'm calling my second favorite Libra. My good friend Danielle. My first favorite Libra is my oldest daughter. They actually have the same birthday. So she will be here on Friday as my representation of air and awesome friend. But I thought, you know, this morning when I was thinking about what I needed to, you know, share with you all and manifest kind of in my day today, it is this notion of finding balance with my thoughts, and my dreams, and that planning piece, and how important that really can be. So oftentimes I talk about ways that you can connect with the energy of each of the elements. So connecting with the element of air. This is a newer little figurine that I got. So this is a representation of the goddess Melissa. Actually, there's a little, this light is killing me. There you go. There is a little honeybee on her belly chain. And Melissa actually in Greek translates into honeybee. And, you know, if you think about bees and you think about not just the fact that obviously they have wings, that they fly, but there is there's always a queen bee in the hive that kind of directs where things are going. She's the one that makes the plans. She's the one that sends that, you know, messaging out to the collective on what to do and how to do it. And when you're thinking about connecting to the energy of air, you know, thinking about groups and planning and, you know, all those components, finding things like this for me is a great reminder. I have this on my desk this week. So I think about, you know, whenever I see her on my desk, she's like, oh yes, okay, let me think about air energy. What can I be doing to manifest and connect with air energy right now? Also, I mentioned my necklace. If you have, you know, jewelry that, you know, really represents or for you represents this idea of air and thinking and dreaming. I do have, I'm terrible about taking notes for these. Most of it just kind of flies off of the top of my head, but I happen to have this sheet here. And I also, because I didn't mention the chakras, I mentioned that the energy of air and its ability to plan and dream wasn't like the creative energy that we find in our sacral chakra. It is the energy, it's actually found in our heart chakra, which is why I have this green shirt on today, because I don't have a yellow shirt that I can find. I've tried to put some yellow eyeshadow on there for you today to give you that yellow. But it's actually in our heart chakra, which is the fourth chakra. It's the green chakra. And it's interesting, again, because though, you know, when you think about heart chakra, you would think about emotions and love. Air's energy is about connecting you to love in terms of acceptance, right? Like self-acceptance, accepting others for who they are. And again, it's not that, you know, kind of mushy, gushy love that we find down in our sacral chakras, but it is that I don't want to say intellectual love, but it's that knowing, like knowing who the other person is, knowing who you are, and loving that part of you, that other person. That's that deeply connected love that's rooted, again, in very practical, intellectual terms, right? Let me see if I've got any questions over here. So let's see, what else? Was there anything else I forgot to mention to you? Other than mentioning a good time to connect with air is right at dawn, so that, you know, that in between time, in between, you know, night and the day coming through, that's the time of air. That's again, that lightness, that awakening, that kind of new, fresh energy that you get, you know, also in the spring. Spring is the season connected with air's energy. So, you know, this week I really encourage you, as you're going through this journey of, you know, any kind of changes that you're making in your life. You know, again, from the beginning, I kind of mentioned in the first set of this series, when you're thinking about changing in your life, whatever it is, big, small, you know, take little steps. You can go through all of these energetic connections, you know, multiple times. Don't ever feel like, oh, you know what, I went through this process with this change, I can't do it again. No, this is ongoing. This is cyclical. This never stops, right? It's just a process to help you remember how to move, to make sure that you hit all the hot spots. So if you're changing something in your life right now, or you're wanting to change something in your life right now, you know, sitting down, starting with what it is that you want to change, thinking about why, you know, you really want to change it. Then you get to move through the energy of water, cleansing things away that you don't need, that are not going to help you get to that change that you really want. Moving into the energy of earth, where now that you've cleansed out all the old, you're grounding yourself, you're learning and understanding and sitting in who you truly are. Then moving forward where we are right now into that energy of air, and allowing yourself to dream and to plan for the future. And again, you know, it's not the action piece yet, it's the planning, making sure that you know why, that you reflect back, you know why you're doing these things, you know what you've let go to make this change, you know who you are, and now you're taking that to the next level and making those plans. And so next week when we talk, we'll talk about the energy of fire. That's the action energy, that's the actual, you know, doing, right? This week is just focused on planning, making sure that we're ready to move forward. So I think that's all that I needed to tell you about air today. CD, you hate the spring. Who hates the spring? I love the spring. Everything's fresh and new. Again, you know, if you're watching this later on the replay and you've got any questions, go ahead and pop them in here. I'd love to hear them and get back to you. I mentioned Fridays, so we started our Friend Friday last week, and this Friday at 6 o'clock in the WTF with Mel group specifically, if I can get my cameras to work appropriately, I will have my very good friend, Danielle. I call her Boo, so I always have to stop and think, and she just got married, so she has an extra name. Now she has a hyphenated name. Yay, getting married. So Danielle Monroe Coderre will be here Friday. You're definitely going to want to check out my conversation with her. She's a Libra. She is a unicorn. She is amazing. You're definitely going to want to hear from her, learn a little bit about what she does. So meet me back here Friday at 6 o'clock. And if you have any questions, let me know. If you're interested in, booking a session, getting started, if you're not quite sure where to get started in this change journey, I'd love to see you one-on-one. You can go ahead and book a 1-hour session with me. We can have a conversation about what's going on and where to start. I'd love to see you. Otherwise, have a great day. I'll see you Friday.